Hi guys. Last night I went on live stream on YouTube for the first time. Well, I've tried it before, but anyways. And I just sat there and talked to the chat for a couple hours. And at one point I had mentioned how I was really depressed for the latter portion of 2017 and how I'm feeling a lot better now. And a lot of people were asking me, like, how do you get over depression? How do you get over depression? And I'm not a therapist. I actually am not qualified at all to tell you how to get over your depression. But I can tell you what I did, or at least what I think I did. Where do I start with this? I guess a lot of my depression came from feelings of boredom, having too much time in my day, not enough structure, and just looking at things that I didn't have. Like, comparing yourself to other people, other things, is just like, it's only going to hurt you, you know? Like, this is a really important topic, so I hope I do an okay job here, but I basically sat around on the couch for week after week being like, why don't I have this? Or why don't I have that? And why am I not motivated to do this? And why am I not motivated to do that? Instead of saying, like, look at what I do have and look at where I was before this, like how I've gotten better. And I was very isolated. Emily had moved out, and I think there was a portion of the time where I was really down where Adam was on tour or something, and all I had were my thoughts and myself, and I just kept feeling so bad for myself, like, poor me, poor me, poor me. And I think the one thing I did specifically is I took action. Like, I decided to go see a therapist. I decided to go see a health practitioner. I decided that I was going to try to get out of it, and vlogging was one of the ways that I was going to try to get out of it. Like, because vlogging in itself isn't what, like, helped me. It was the commitment to doing something every single day, like something to look forward to, something to help create meaning in my life. Because a lot of my depression came from this, like, existential crisis of, like, what am I doing? I have a house, I have food, I have money, I have a boyfriend, I have a healthy body, but I'm not happy. Like, I don't feel purposeful and I don't feel fulfilled. And I don't know what it is about, I don't know what it is, but I just, like, showed up every day for myself. And, like, after weeks of being in therapy and realizing that I was crying about the same thing over and over and over and over again, I was like, you just want to cry at this point. Like, I'm not saying this is how it is for everybody. Everybody's depression is different, and it is actually, yes, a chemical imbalance. But I noticed in myself, like, I was in Miami with Adam for a couple days, and while I was there, for some reason it clicked, and I was like, whoa, you are becoming exactly what you were always afraid of. And maybe I was becoming it because I kept attracting the thought of, I don't want to be this, into my mind, instead of, like, what I did want to be, which is, like, a healthy, strong person. But basically I was going to therapy every week and just talking to my therapist like a friend, but, like, just complaining about things. And I didn't want to be like that anymore. And I kind of just, like, I know it sounds really silly to say, like, got my act together, but I started to look at the things in my life, and instead of saying, this is what's wrong with this thing, I was saying, like, I am so lucky that I have this thing in my life. Like, that this is even something that I can start to critique. For example, like, instead of finding a fault in my relationship, like, I could say, I'm so happy to have Adam in my life. Instead of finding a fault in, like, oh, it got so bad. It got to the point where I was like, oh, I have to answer an email. Like, I was someone who was writing 10-page papers. Like, how did I let myself get there, you know? And I kind of, my therapist kept reminding me, like, think of a version of yourself that you miss, or that you, like a version of yourself where you've seen yourself happy and prospering and growing and feeling meaning, and what was that person doing? And he made me list those things, and he was like, you need to do those things, you know? It's really easy for me to be like, I'm a beach person, but if I never go to the beach, like, why? And then I was like, oh wait, I don't go to the beach because I'm scared of sitting in traffic. Like, what the fuck kind of bullshit answer is that? You know? back when I had a 10-hour workday, I would dream of having time to go to the beach. I would dream of sitting in traffic to go to the beach. And it's really all about what thoughts you decide to have around your circumstances. And that's what my life coach is also teaching me right now. Like, what is the situation and what are you deciding to think about it? And that is the only thing that you have control over. Pretty much that same theme runs through the obstacle is the way, and my life coaching stuff. The obstacle is the way is the Ryan Holiday book I always talk about that I'm obsessed with. I know this is really like all over the place and ranty, but it just occurred to me that I would like to address it. You can't give up. I mean, you can, but I've seen people in my life give up. I've seen people in my life say, this is my diagnosis, or this is what I have, but have let that stamp become them. It's not a cop-out, but it is sometimes easy to say, like, well, I'm depressed, or well, I'm bipolar, or whatever, so I'm, going to do these things. And how do I explain this? Like there are bipolar people who have healthy, productive lives. There are people who come from really shitty circumstances, really shitty neighborhoods, who end up going to jail, who end up killing people, who end up becoming murderers or serial killers or whatever. And then there are people who, from really shitty circumstances, who end up becoming amazing people, who end up becoming like the Stephen Hawkings of the world. You know what I mean? I don't know. Sometimes I'm afraid of talking about this topic because I don't want to upset anybody. I'm not downplaying that depression's a real thing, because it is a real thing, and I was experiencing it. I was, for the first time in my life, being like, wow, I don't care if I get out of bed, and I've never been that way in my life. But I was very proactive in that I didn't want it to last long, and that I wanted to find anything that I could to get out of it. And I finally pursued, I'm going to get help with my eating disorder. I'm going to go talk to somebody. I even, I've been very resistant to the idea of getting on any sort of antidepressants. And I was like, you know what? Let's try this out. Let's see if it helps. So I guess the only thing that I really did was that I never gave up. I would recommend you, if I was to tell someone, like, how do I start getting out of my depression? Like, think about your circumstances, and then think about what thoughts are surrounding those circumstances and how you could alter them to get to a result or a place where you would prefer to be. Like, if my thoughts around my body are, it's been better, it could be better, then I'm gonna feel shitty about myself. If my thoughts about my body in the way that it is right now is like, I'm exactly where I need to be right now, or I look exactly how I'm supposed to look right now, like, I'm going to end up feeling very differently about my body by saying those two different sentences, and the results of what I'm saying are going to affect me in a different way, positive or negative. People always ask me what the tattoos on my fingers are, and I got them right before I quit my real job to do the social media thing, and they're basically about what I just explained, and I totally forgot that until my life coach reminded me. But this finger tattoo says you are no one, and then this finger tattoo on the other side of my hand says you are number one, and they look almost exactly the same in the way that they're written. But it's like I could decide to tell myself you are no one or you are number one. It's however I decide to look at the situation. And that's not the whole pie, but it's a part of it. So find out what things spark you, like what makes you happy. I like writing poetry, although writing poetry scares me. I like going to the beach, although driving to the beach gives me anxiety. And in the beginning, it's not going to be easy to just go make yourself do those things. But if you have to start forcing yourself at some point. Like, if you cannot, I don't know. It scares me to talk about this, but I can only say what I did and what helped me and why I feel like I'm doing better right now than I was 6 months ago. I'm also partying a lot less. I can't pretend that partying every weekend and getting fucked up wasn't messing with my, dopamine and serotonin levels and all that kind of stuff, because it does. So just be cautious of that, take care of yourself. I don't know. I feel kind of weird making this video, but if it helps anybody, then that's great. Another tip that I would say is, like, I know what helps me feel better is reading about people's sort of, not rags to riches stories, but like stories about people's come-ups, like how they became who they became, because those things are really inspiring, because no one really shows their failures and their setbacks. They always just talk about the successes. But if you read into people's stories, like, there's a million setbacks and failures behind their success, and they just kept going. And that, you know, when I'm like sitting there getting down on myself about something, I remember, you know, sometimes like things that Peter had said to me. Peter's my friend that I've talked about on here, who actually did end up killing himself. But when I was friends with him in Santa Cruz, I would be like, oh my God, I'm too old. I can't start writing now. And this was like when I was 22. He would remind me about, I think he told me, you might have to fact check me, but I think he told me that David Sedaris, a very, very, very popular author now, wrote for like 13 years or something like that before he even showed anybody a piece of work. And things like that have always stuck with me. So, yeah. I don't know when I'm going to put this video up, but I made it. So, there's that. I love you guys, and I hope that you get to live your most authentic, genuine life by doing things that you want for yourself.